Namaskar. A warm welcome to World News and Indian Perspective on All India Radio. This is R.S. Raghu and with me is Aditi Loomba bringing glimpses of the major developments of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment and more. The headlines. India reiterates commitment to provide humanitarian assistance to Afghan people. Russia says it does not want war over Ukraine. India calls for a peaceful resolution of the situation through sustained diplomatic efforts. EU refers China to WTO following its trade restrictions on Lithuania. New Delhi calls for the earliest release of Indian sailors under Houthi captivity. India signs $375 million deal for the export of the Brahmos Supersonic anti-ship cruise missiles with the Philippines. Australia launches $1 billion plan to salvage the Great Barrier Reef. Prime Minister Modi commemorates birth anniversary of the doyen of Indian classical music by launching the Pandit Jasraj Cultural Foundation. And in Women's Asia Cup hockey, India win bronze, beating China 2-0. As the number of COVID-19 cases are rising fast in several parts of the country, we appeal to our listeners to be vigilant and get fully vaccinated and help others, including children between 15 and 18 years, to get vaccinated. As the new Omicron variant of coronavirus is causing concern, please continue to follow the 3 simple steps to stay safe. Wear a face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki duri for social distancing and focus on hand and face hygiene. For any COVID-related information and guidance, contact the national helpline number 011-2397-8046 and 1075. And now the news in detail. India's External Affairs Ministry has said that the government is committed to provide humanitarian assistance to Afghan people comprising food grains, COVID-19 vaccines and essential life-saving drugs. Briefing reporters in New Delhi on Friday, External Affairs Ministry spokesperson Arindam Bagchi said that 3.6 tons of medical assistance and 5 lakh doses of COVID vaccines have been provided during the last few weeks. He said the process to procure the wheat and to arrange its transportation is underway.
During the last few weeks, 3.6 tons of medical assistance and 500,000 doses of COVID vaccines have been supplied. The process to procure the wheat and to arrange its transportation is currently underway. Naturally, this takes some time. We will share with you updates as soon as we have them.
UK Foreign Secretary Liz Truss has pledged £97 million of emergency UK aid to the Afghan people to provide life-saving food and emergency health support, as well as water and sanitation facilities. In a statement, the UK government said that humanitarian agencies were also boosted by a change in UK law this week, making it easier for them to deliver aid in Afghanistan. The UK said that no funding will go directly to the Taliban. It said that they will be primarily channeled through the UN Afghanistan Humanitarian Fund, World Food Programme WFP and United Nations Children Fund.
Elsewhere, Japan has decided to provide emergency grant aid of $2 million for the displaced persons in Bangladesh from Rakhine state in Myanmar. In a statement, the Japanese Foreign Ministry said that the emergency grant aid will allow implementing humanitarian assistance activities for the displaced persons from Rakhine state, Myanmar, who have been relocated to Bhashan Char and are in need of urgent assistance. India called for a peaceful resolution of the situation over Ukraine through sustained diplomatic efforts for long-term stability and peace in the region. Speaking to the media in a briefing, spokesperson of India's External Affairs Ministry Arindam Bagchi said India is closely following the developments in Ukraine, including the ongoing high-level discussion between Russia and US.
Our embassy in Kyiv is also monitoring local developments. We call for a peaceful resolution of the situation through sustained diplomatic efforts for long-term peace and stability in the region and beyond.
Friday said that it is willing to engage with US security proposals over Ukraine. Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov told Russian radio stations in an interview that Russia does not want war. Russia has amassed tens of thousands of troops near the Ukrainian border as it is pressing demand for a redrawing of post-Cold War security arrangements in Europe. The US and its allies have warned President Vladimir Putin that Russia will face swift and tough economic sanctions if he attacks Ukraine. Lavrov said the West was ignoring Russia's interests, but there was at least something in written responses submitted by United States and NATO on Wednesday to Russia's proposals. Meanwhile, the United States has called for an open meeting of the UN Security Council on Monday to address the crisis around Ukraine. In a statement, Washington's UN envoy, Linda Thomas-Greenfield, said more than 1 lakh Russian troops are deployed on the Ukrainian border and Russia is posing a clear threat to the international peace and security and the UN Charter. She emphasized the 15-member Security Council must squarely examine facts and consider what is at stake for Ukraine, for Russia and for Europe.
India's External Affairs Ministry has said that the 7 Indian sailors on board the hijacked UAE flagship are safe and in good health. However, in the press briefing on Friday, External Affairs Ministry spokesperson Arindam Bagchi said that the captors are not allowing them to communicate with their families.
The 7 Indian sailors are safe, in good health and are being provided regular meals. However, their captors have not been allowing them to communicate with their families. Government of India is in touch with multiple sources, including the UN mission to support Hodedai Agreement, the UN MHA, to inquire about the safety and well-being of our sailors, as well as to reinforce our message to the Houthis that our sailors should be released at the earliest. As regards the attack in UAE, 2 Indian nationals were killed in the terror attack on January 17. External Affairs Minister, in his telephonic conversation with his UAE counterpart, condemned the terror attack in the strongest terms. Subsequently, the UN Security Council, of which we are currently a member, in a press statement condemned in the strongest terms the heinous terror attack in Abu Dhabi, UAE on January 17th. We are closely monitoring developments.
India and Pakistan are both interested in expanding the agreed list of shrines and mode of travel. Speaking at the weekly press briefing, Mr. Bagchi said that visits to religious shrines are being facilitated regularly under 1974 protocol between India and Pakistan.
India has a positive approach on this matter and is willing to engage the Pakistani side. You are also aware that currently restrictions are in place on movement and gatherings in view of COVID-19 pandemic. As the situation normalizes, we expect that this time can be utilized to hold discussions under the bilateral protocol. It is our hope to facilitate early exchange of visits to all shrines of interest to pilgrims.
Meanwhile, according to reports, 10 Pakistani soldiers have been killed and 2 Pakistani soldiers injured in an attack carried by Balochistan liberation fighters on a military checkpost in Balochistan Sketch. Sources have said that Pakistan Army claimed that 1 attacker was killed and several others were injured during the clashes. Earlier, 2 Pakistani soldiers were killed on the 5th of January in 2 separate incidents in the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa region. 4 other Pakistanis were also killed in Waziristan last month. The European Union (EU) refers China to WTO following its trade restrictions on Lithuania. The EU on Thursday launched a case at the World Trade Organization WTO against China over its discriminatory trade practices against Lithuania. A statement from the European Commission said that these trade restrictions are also hitting other exports from the EU's single market. The EU listed the various types of Chinese restrictions on Lithuania. These include a refusal to clear Lithuanian goods through customs, rejection of import applications from Lithuania, and pressuring EU companies operating out of other EU member states to remove Lithuanian inputs from the supply chains when exporting to China. The statement added that the actions appear to be discriminatory and illegal under WTO rules. The EU resorted to initiating dispute settlement proceedings against China after attempts to resolve this bilaterally failed. The WTO consultations initiated today are the first step in this process.
Latest data from the UK Health Security Agency UKHSA shows that boosters significantly reduce the risk of death with Omicron. In a statement, the UK government said that the findings show that protection against death with Omicron increased to around 95% 2 weeks after receiving a booster vaccine dose in those aged 50 and over. It added that Data continue to show high levels of protection against hospitalization from the booster. India-Israel agreed to further enhance cooperation in the agricultural sector. Israeli ambassador to India Naor Gilon called on India's Minister of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare Narendra Singh Tomar at Krishi Bhavan on Thursday. Mr. Tomar informed that it has been decided to convert 150 villages around the centers of excellence into villages of excellence with technical assistance from Israel. Of these, 75 villages are being taken up in the first year to commemorate the 75th year of India's independence, where India and Israel will work together.
India and Philippines on Friday signed the $375 million deal for the sale of Brahmos supersonic anti-ship cruise missiles to the Philippines Navy. Defense Secretary of Philippines, Delfin Lorenzana, and Indian envoy to Philippines, Shambhu Kumaran, signed the contract in Manila. The development is a major shot in the arm for India's efforts to become the exporter of defense hardware. Brahmos Aerospace, an India-Russian joint venture, produces the supersonic cruise missile Brahmos that can be launched from submarines, ships, aircraft, or from land platforms. In a statement, the Defense Ministry said that the contract is an important step forward for the Government of India's policy of promoting responsible defense exports. Earlier this month, India successfully test-fired the Brahmos supersonic cruise missile with enhanced capabilities. Brahmos is a highly maneuverable missile which cruises at a speed faster than the speed of sound. The first India Central Asia Summit was held on Thursday. The summit, held in a virtual format, was hosted by Prime Minister Narendra Modi and saw the participation of President of Kazakhstan, Kassym-Jomart Tokayev, President of Kyrgyz Republic, Sadir Zaparov, President of Tajikistan, Emomali Rahmon, President of Turkmenistan, Gurbanguly Berdimuhammedov, and President of Uzbekistan, Shavkat Mirziyoyev. It was held in virtual format. Addressing the meeting, Prime Minister Modi said that the summit has three main objectives. First, to make it clear that the cooperation between India and Central Asia is essential for regional security and prosperity. He underlined that Central Asia is central to India's vision of an integrated and stable extended neighborhood. The second objective is to give an effective structure to India's Central Asia cooperation. The third objective is to create an ambitious roadmap towards adopting an integrated approach for regional connectivity and cooperation for the next 30 years. A joint declaration was issued following the summit of the six leaders. A number of measures have been proposed to further deepen the cooperation and build a comprehensive and enduring India-Central Asia partnership based on mutual trust, understanding and friendship. Apart from the ongoing India-Central Asia dialogue mechanism at foreign ministers level, trade ministers and cultural ministers of India and Central Asian countries would be meeting at regular intervals. The secretaries of the National Security Councils will hold regular meetings to discuss security developments in the region. India has proposed to establish an India-Central Asia Centre in New Delhi, which would work as a secretariat for the India-Central Asia Summit. In today's Hotspot section, we bring you a discussion on the India-Central Asia Summit. In conversation are Ashok Sajjanhar, a former diplomat, and Nilova Roy Chaudhary, a journalist.
Ambassador Ashok Sajjanhar, how vital exactly then is this India-Central Asia relationship? And, if you could give us a couple of reasons particularly.
Central Asia is very important for India because we term it as a part of our extended neighborhood. India and Central Asia, the five countries of Central Asia, which till 1991 were a part of the Soviet Union, and they got independence after the disintegration of the Soviet Union. So we have had cultural, civilizational, historical relations with each other because whether it was from 3rd century BCE till about 15th century CE, we had the Silk Road going through it, and even in the Soviet times, much closer in Soviet times, we had very strong partnership. But after they became independent, our relations have not really been able to take off. Although there is fund of goodwill between India and all these countries because of the issue of connectivity. We do not have proximate contiguous borders with any of these countries. And Pakistan, which falls between India and Central Asia, and also between India and Afghanistan. Afghanistan does not provide access to these countries through its territory. So that has been an issue, that has been a problem, why our relations have really not been able to achieve the desired potential. But these countries are extremely rich in mineral resources, for instance, in hydrocarbons, whether it is oil or it is gas or it is uranium. Or the other countries, Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan, are very rich in water resources. So there is a great possibility, great potential for expanding our relations. And one more aspect, let me add here, which has become very relevant and significant more recently, that is the situation in Afghanistan. Because in Afghanistan, we have seen on 15th August, by force, by military power, the Taliban have taken charge, have assumed control. But although it is more than 5 months now, not a single country in the world has so far accorded diplomatic recognition to it.
Bilaterally with each of the Central Asian countries and regionally, how much has the Taliban takeover of Afghanistan affected the bilateral dynamic and the regional relationship?
I think that is a very important factor that has come up in the last few months, and in that context, the salience and relevance of Central Asia for India has increased very significantly. Before that, also, we were trying to, I mentioned about connectivity, we were trying to get over this problem by going through Chabahar. Now that initiative will increase much more. But coming to the security and stability and peace in Afghanistan, that is an issue which has, over the last few months, we saw the Delhi Regional Security Dialogue taking place, in which we had the secretaries of National Security Councils of all the 5 Central Asian countries, of course, in addition to their counterparts from Iran and Russia and India. And then we had the 3rd India-Central Asia Regional Dialogue taking place. And there also all the 5 foreign ministers from Central Asian countries, they came to India. So these interactions, discussions took place, the Regional Security Dialogue in November and the Central Asia Dialogue in December. So they have come, and there were consensus documents that were adopted by both these meetings, and there we find that there is a great similarity of views as far as dealing with the issues in Afghanistan is concerned. The first aspect, of course, is in terms of having an inclusive government in Afghanistan so that the human rights of all minorities, whether it is Tajiks who comprise anything between 32 to 46% of the population in Afghanistan, Tajiks, Uzbeks, Hazaras, Shias, their rights are protected, and also the rights of women and children are protected. And Afghanistan is not used as a staging ground for launching terror attacks against its neighbors and other countries. And we have seen what has happened in Kazakhstan earlier this month in January. And the Kazakh president, Mr. Tokayev, in his address to the nation on 5th of January, he said that there were Afghan terrorists who were present amongst those who were indulging in violence and bloodshed in Kazakhstan. So that lends it even greater urgency and importance.
So would Central Asia, for example, also be looking to India to be able to give them sort of a balancing factor between these other 2 huge giants, particularly China now, which seems to be encroaching all over Central Asia?
Well, China has increased its footprint very significantly as far as Central Asia is concerned. That would be a matter of concern not only to other countries, but even to Russia. And Russia and China are very strong, close partners. Mr. Putin has said that he has a very strong personal relationship of trust with Mr. Xi Jinping. But I'm sure the increasing footprint of China in this region would be a matter of concern for Russia also. And that is why you would see, Nilova, that in the India-Russia summit on the 6th of December, one of the elements is how Russia and India can cooperate in Central Asia. and particularly in the area of defense, because we see that most of the defense equipment in Central Asian countries would be of Soviet and of Russian origin, as it is in India. So whether it is supplying spare parts or overhauling or servicing, there are so many things that Russia and India can work together, and both of them have also exchanged documents as to how we can go forward together as far as Central Asia is concerned.
India-Central Asia relations is going to be one of the particularly important relationships developing in the coming times. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is All India Radio giving you the news. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle at AIR News Alerts.
Welcome back to World News. The Australian government will invest an additional $1 billion in protecting the Great Barrier Reef. Prime Minister Scott Morrison in a statement said that the new funding will back marine science, deployment of new climate adaptation technology, major investments in water quality programs, and the state-of-the-art on water management practices to reduce threats from crown of thorns starfish, protect key species, and prevent illegal fishing. It added that it will support 64,000 Queenslanders and their jobs, which drive the reef economy. Last year, UNESCO mulled putting the Great Barrier Reef on a list of World Heritage Sites that are in danger due to damage caused by climate change. However, the organization refrained from such an enlistment, providing respite to the Australian government. A recent study has found that coral bleaching has affected 98% of the reef since 1998, leaving just a fraction of it untouched. Domain experts and the students from India and the USA discussed issues ranging from characterizing the space radiation environment to astrobiology and the application of artificial intelligence and machine learning tools in it at the Indo-US Workshop on Space Radiation Workshop. The workshop was held between the 24th to the 28th of January. Mr. Kiran Kumar, former chairman ISRO, gave an overview of previous space missions by India and chalked a roadmap of new missions till 2025 in his keynote address on Wednesday. He also pointed out that the making of the satellite for the Aditya L1 mission, which will study the sun, is nearing its completion and will likely be launched this year. He also said that in future, ISRO and the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, JAXA, will be collaborating on a lunar exploration mission.
The 24th of January is the birth anniversary of Pandit Jasraj. He was a rare Indian classical vocalist who dominated the Indian music arena for several decades. His legacy includes memorable performances of classical and semi-classical vocal music, classical and devotional music, innovations in various genres including Haveli Sangeet, and popularizing the Mewati Gharana, a school of thought in Hindustani classical music. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has stressed that Indian music should make its global identity. He was speaking at the launch of Pandit Jasraj Cultural Foundation through video conferencing on Friday. He paid tribute to Pandit Jasraj on the occasion of birth anniversary of the doyen of Indian classical music. As a part of Republic Day celebrations, the Beating the Retreat ceremony will be held at the historic Vijay Chowk Saturday evening. A novel drone show will be one of the major attractions of this year's Beating the Retreat ceremony. The ceremony will be graced by President and Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces, Ram Nath Kovind. Other dignitaries, including Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, will witness the show, which has been conceptualized, designed, produced and choreographed under the Make in India initiative. A report.
For the first time, the drone show has been made a part of the ceremony to commemorate 75 years of independence being celebrated as Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. The drone show has been organized by a startup Bot Lab Dynamics and supported by Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi and Department of Science and Technology. The show would be of 10 minutes duration, involving around 1,000 drones fabricated through indigenous technology. Synchronized background music will also be played during the drone show. A total of 26 performances will enthrall the spectators with foot-tapping music played by the bands of Indian Army, Navy, Air Force and Central Armed Police Forces. The entry band will be masked band playing the Veer Sainik tune. This will be followed by pipes and drums band, CAPF band, Air Force band, Naval band, Army military band and masked bands. The principal conductor of the ceremony will be Commander Vijay Charles D. Cruz. Besides, a number of new tunes have been added to the ceremony to celebrate Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. These include Kerala, Hind Ki Sena and Aye Mere Watan Ke Logon. The event will be come to a close with ever popular tune of Sare Jahan Se Acha. Anand Kumar, AIR News, Delhi.
Moving on to sports, in hockey, India beat China 2-0 for a bronze medal in the Women's Asia Cup at Muscat in Oman this evening. Sharmila Devi in the 13th minute and Gurjeet Kaur in the 19th minute scored the goals for India. The final between South Korea and Japan is now underway. South Korea entered the final beating defending champions India 3-2 while Japan defeated China 2-1. Now let's take a look at the major developments around the world as reported in the foreign press. Firstly, let's see what made the headlines in Afghanistan. Tolu News reports that all the participants at Oslo meet raised the importance of respect for human rights and the strong need for an inclusive and representative political system to ensure stability and a peaceful future for Afghanistan. Hundreds of women took to the streets in Kabul and demanded the release of Afghanistan's frozen funds in the Western Banks. The Sky News headline reads, "Parents sell children and kidneys to feed starving families." Let's take a look at what made the headlines in Nepal. ANI carried the headline, "Chinese social media filled with uncontrolled fake news about Nepal." The Kathmandu Post carried the headline, "Nepal likely to get 6.2 million Pfizer doses from COVAX." And now, in news from Bangladesh, Dhaka Tribune reports that Bangladesh is well on the way to achieve the global COVID-19 vaccination target, with more than 9.58 crore people getting the first dose. The official news agency BSS quotes the Ministry of Foreign Affairs saying that the first ever meeting of the newly formed technical level ad hoc task force for verification of the displaced persons from Rakhine Rohingyas was held on Friday virtually between Bangladesh and Myanmar. A quick look at the headlines once again. India reiterates commitment to provide humanitarian assistance to Afghan people. Russia says it does not want war over Ukraine. India calls for a peaceful resolution of the situation through sustained diplomatic efforts. EU refers China to WTO following its trade restrictions in Lithuania. New Delhi calls for the earliest release of Indian sailors under Houthi captivity. India signs $375 million deal for the export of the Brahmos supersonic anti-ship cruise missiles with the Philippines. Australia launches $1 billion plan to salvage the Great Barrier Reef. Prime Minister Modi commemorates birth anniversary of the doyen of Indian classical music by launching the Pandit Jasraj Cultural Foundation. And in Women's Asia Cup hockey, India win bronze beating China 2-0. And now, before we end, let us listen to Mahatma Gandhi's favorite bhajan Vaishnav Jan by artists from Austria.
Vaishnav Jan to kehne ka ye je dhire paraye jane re aur tuske upkar kare to ye man abhiman
And with that, we end this bulletin. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of World News.